one point or the other, we've all heard of the term technological singularity and how it's doom that's coming for the world. But personally, I don't think we'll ever, as a human race, reach the point of technological singularity. And here's why. A year ago, I embarked on a journey to study the whole Bible. And one day I was reading in Genesis, I think it was Genesis 11, and I came across the story of the Tower of Babel and how the depths and the heights that man's imagination can lead him to. Because even God confirmed it, saying that there is nothing that man imagines that he won't be able to do. And for a really long time, that was where my entire focus was on. Until one day, I read upon a concept called technological singularity. And the more I studied these concepts, both the story of the Tower of Babel that happened millennia ago and the concept of a technological singularity that is in a futuristic, hazy, as of right now, timeline, the more I began to see parallels and similarities between these two events. But let's backtrack a little bit. What is a technological singularity? First of all, the term singularity is derived or comes from astrophysics, where something reaches a tipping point where all the currently known laws simply fall apart and no longer can apply to that particular thing. It's like when the laws of physics meet the black hole or a black hole. Its laws cannot be applicable to the black hole. Now, a technological singularity is at a point or is a point where the growth or the expansion or the innovation of technology has gotten so big that humans can no longer keep up because the technology begins to update itself, it begins to maintain itself, and humans have zero control or even zero understanding of the pace of its growth. So, what is the time frame for this proposed technological singularity? Scientists and other technologists they're not quite certain on the timeline as of right now. They opine that in a couple more years we would have artificially super intelligent machines that produce Nobel Prize winning innovations every 5 seconds. These scientists and these technologists believe that this is a doom that we should all be prepared for because it will now become the robot age. But personally, and this might be a bit controversial, but personally, I don't think we'll ever reach that stage. And here's why. Because of the Tower of Babel and what happened in it. So let's go back to history. Let's go back to the Bible, the origin story, the Bible. What is the Tower of Babel and what happened there? Now, you can find the narration of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11, specifically verses 1 to 9. These people, they were a people, they lived in the plain land of Shinar, and they were unified in the tongue. They all spoke one language. A couple of them brought up the idea that let them build a city, a tower for themselves to avoid spreading, to avoid migrating, so that they would gather themselves together and make a name for themselves. But the tower began to build. While they were building this tower, God came down to look at what man was doing, as was his way, and God remarked that the unity of languages was what enabled man to accomplish this feat of building the tower. And that if they went unchecked or if they went unstopped, the build of the tower would be nothing compared to what they would be able to achieve or accomplish if they put their minds to it. And so he caused a confusion amongst the languages and a multiplicity of the languages. And that was where the multiple languages that we have in the world today were born. Once the languages were confused, obviously one could not communicate to the other. So the build automatically stopped. And there was confusion and they eventually spread. What they were trying to avoid, they eventually spread. And that, in short, is the story about it. Hey, and so if this video has been really helpful for you, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button, you could share, or show this video to people who might also find it valuable. So hit that like button. Now that you know the story of the Tower of Babel, I'm sure you've begun to draw the parallels already. In Genesis 11:1, the people were unified in their languages and in their thought process. They wanted to build a tower to make a name for themselves, to gather together and not to spread. The same way today with technological singularities, we are unified in our incessant need for more technological advancements. The second parallel, you will find it in Genesis 11 verse 3, where the people, they baked bricks, they brought tar and cement, and not sure they used cement at the time, but they brought all the building equipment and all the tools that they needed to build up this tower. In the same way, in the world today, we might not have gathered at a meeting, but gradually with every innovation, with every technological advancement, we are making tool after tool that will help in the greater or in the bigger build of artificially super intelligent machines. The third parallel, you will find it in Genesis 11, verse 4, where the people, all they wanted was to make a name for themselves. They wanted to gather themselves together to live in one place, to be one, which is admirable. But why? Two things. Number one, why do you need a name when there's God? The second thing is that in their need for building a name, in their need for being together and remaining unified, they forget that in previous chapters, God gave them a very, very clear instruction to be fruitful, to multiply, and to fill the earth. So by wanting to remain together, by wanting to stay as one, they were in very clear violation of that previous instruction that was given to them by their creator. In the world today, man is making or is building technologies that undermine the creation of God, which is man himself. God created man to have dominion over the earth. Like you can find it in Genesis 1 26 to 28. And by creating these technologies, you are slowly chipping away at man's dominion. There are some things that are meant for man and man alone. And because if at any point these machines become sentient, then we will essentially be or dragging our spot at the top of the food chain with them, which is a clear violation of God's word when He says, "Let us make man in our own image, so that they will have dominion over the earth and the fishes and the." The fourth parallel you can find it in Genesis 11 verse 6, where God came down and He saw what man was doing and how far they'd gone in the tower and how their unified language enabled all that. And He commented that the build of the tower at the stage they were in at the time was only the beginning. Imagine what they could do the higher the tower goes. I don't even think the people building the tower at the time had or could grasp the full consequence of what they were doing. It's the same way with us today. Whatever it is that we can imagine now, both good and bad, about this technological singularity is simply the beginning. Parallel number 5, which is the most important and the very reason why I don't think the technological singularity will happen, is in Genesis 11, verse 7 to 8. And God said, ah, thank God for God. He always has a way of intervening when man's foolishness gets too much. There was a divine interference. At the moment when God came down, when God saw that these people were building these towers and they were reaching infinite heights and the windows of what they could do were simply expanding, there was a divine interference. And the divine interference at the time was a confusion of their languages. And in our day and age today, if you are a Christian, if you are a scholar, if you are a human being, you ought to read the Bible. And when you read the Bible, you will find that the divine interference that is waiting at the end of this timeline that the human race is on is the rapture. The rapture will happen before anything of a technological singularity even attempts to happen. And after I've explained all that, you're probably wondering, so Norma, why should I care again? Well, you should care because number one, the concept is fascinating. Whether it happens or not is simply a fascinating concept to want to get to know. Number two, the consequence of continued expansion of technology, whether it's on the positive or it's on the negative, is beyond our imagination. Three, the God factor. You should care because of the God factor that would stop the exponential growth of technology or would stop us from reaching a point of technological singularity. So yeah, those are 3 points why you should care. And you're not asking me, well, Nama, you are a lawyer, so what does the law say? Well, as we know, the law is very preventative more than it's proactive. The law is reactive as opposed to being proactive. So, as of right now, the law does not recognize a technological singularity because it has never occurred before now. So, currently, hard laws, and by hard laws I mean written laws, hard laws are a bit silent on it. But soft laws, which are like policies that they talk about in Congress or they talk about within the National Assembly or policies that a company made, that's a different matter entirely. So no, right now on its own, the law is unable to stop, prevent, correct, delay the happening of a technological singularity. And before you ask, no, there's also nothing you or I can do to stop it except maybe stop developing technologies, which is factually impossible. And my advice to you is accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior because you do not want to be here after God. So yeah, that concludes today's video. I hope you learned something. I hope it was of value to you. Did it ruffle your feathers? Did you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Either ways, I would love to know. So let me know in the comments below. I will be reading and responding to each and every one of them. And yeah, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button if this video was of value to you, so that other people can see it and listen and watch it, and it can also provide value to them as well. Until next time, guys. Bye.